Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. I'm your host, Irina Shehovsov. Today we are joined by an award-winning freelance journalist and author of Parenting and Climate Crisis, Bridget Shirvell. Following her shift from food reporting to climate advocacy, Bridget shares powerful insights on parenting in an age of eco-anxiety. We'll hear her single mom journey, turning climate fears into empowering habits, and how she is building community resilience one small change at a time. Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Before we start the next conversation, I want to invite you to check out my amazing book, The Gift Inside, a powerful guide for healing your body, mind, and soul. Reclaim your strengths and awaken your true potential. Whether you are navigating heartbreak or simply seeking deeper fulfillment, this book offers the tools to turn your struggles into triumphs. It is time to unlock the gift within you. Available now on Amazon, or you can check it out on my website www.irinashehovsov.com. Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today we have a special guest, Bridget Shirvell. She's a freelance journalist and the author of Parenting and the Climate Crisis, a book that explores the challenges and opportunities of raising children in an area of climate change. With a focus on environmental issues, social justice, and family dynamics, Bridget's writing dives into the emotional and practical aspects of navigating climate concerns while parenting. Her work has been featured in various publications including Teen Vogue, Fast Company, and Martha Stewart Living, where she combines personal insights with expert perspectives to inspire and inform readers. So welcome, Bridget. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So how did that journey started? What made you interested in this?
Yeah, so I was kind of a food journalist for a long time, focused a lot, not so much on like restaurant reviews, but very much on farms and ingredients. And so from that, I kind of was involved in how different aspects of climate change was affecting farmers' abilities to grow things and chefs' abilities to source things. And then after my daughter was born, I started to really think more about like the everyday things that we do and how life is kind of changing because of the climate crisis, and really thinking about like what type of skills that kids are going to need. And that kind of started to inform my overall writing, and the stories that I was looking to do was to take more of a focus on the little changes that people are doing in their everyday lives, some of them that they may realize, and some of them that have just kind of become like an unconscious way of adapting.
So what was one surprising way that you found that people?
So one of the things that we were kind of talking about this a little bit beforehand when we started, but it's really hot where I am. So I have started to get up early on these really hot summer days to take my dog for a walk. And I think that is just kind of something I didn't really think about like consciously, but is just something now that I do over the course of the summer because our summers are so much hotter. So it's a lot of like things like that. I think of like, oh, do we even really realize how we are adapting and what that means?
Yeah, totally. Are you a morning person?
I am a bit of a morning person, but I don't know if I'm like that much of a morning person to be up at like 5 a.m. with the dog and like wandering around outside. Like that's a little early. I would still rather have coffee first.
So how can parents process their own eco-anxiety while still showing up for their children?
I think that is a really hard thing for parents to do, right? I mean, there are just like different moments during different days or different weeks where I get nervous or anxious about the climate. It could be something as simple as grocery shopping and being like overwhelmed by the amount of plastic packaging, or being outside with my kid and like seeing a bee and then kind of wondering how the bees are doing. But I think in those instances, it's always kind of like good to just like pause and kind of acknowledge your feelings, but you also don't necessarily want to put them on to your own kid. So I kind of focus a lot on how I create joy, and how I make certain things fun. So for instance, if she's with me at the supermarket, I might say, hey, I know you really want applesauce this week, but do you think we can try to find an applesauce that doesn't come in a plastic container? And we might have like a little bit of a conversation about why, or she might just kind of go and it's kind of like a fun scavenger hunt in the store.
Totally, totally. How has becoming a parent shaped your views on climate change?
I think climate change is something that I was always kind of aware of and worried about, but I think when you have your own kid, you feel much more invested in it and invested in the future that you don't really know what it's going to look like, but wanting to make that the best possible future for my kid as possible. So I think that kind of made me feel more, I don't know, maybe a little more anxious, but also just like a little more determined to do as much as I could.
Totally. What one piece of advice would you share with a parent who feels overwhelmed about everything?
I think, talking about it with other parents, there is what we kind of call a silent majority that's very worried about climate change and wants action to happen, but we don't really talk about it enough with each other and other parents. So I think it can be something as simple as, oh, like the air quality has been bad this week and I'm worried about getting the kids outside. Say little things, you'll feel more connected to other people and you can start seeing what other people are doing and you feel less alone.
Right. Yeah. No, not too many people are talking about this. You're right. What are some of the things I guess parents can do as they're raising kids? What are some of the tips would you make? Like, what changes have you made since you started kind of paying attention to the climate change and how?
Yeah, I think that for most people, the place where they're going to see the biggest impact on an like individual or family level is really when you think about the food that you have on a regular basis. And that doesn't mean that everyone needs to become a vegetarian. Obviously, eating less meat is probably going to lower your carbon emissions, but it could be something as simple as eating meat 3 or 4 days a week and not the other days. Another good thing to think about in terms of food is just like how much food you're wasting when we end up putting food in the trash instead of, say, compost. All that, like that releases methane in a landfill, which is a greenhouse gas and kind of contributes it. So really kind of thinking about, or there's certain types of food that I'm wasting on a regular basis, right? Like, do my bananas always go bad before we get a chance to eat them? Maybe I should be eating less bananas. Maybe there's a different fruit that we should have in our house, or like maybe there's different ways that we can use them.
Yeah, totally. What do you think? I guess as we are raising kids, what can we instill in them? What can we help them see differently as it comes to climate change?
I think that most kids are kind of naturally curious about the outside world, the natural environment, and they're also kind of in love with it from a really young age. And so one of the best things that I think parents can do is really kind of just like nurture that love of nature. And it can be, even if you don't have a backyard, it can be something as simple as just trying to get outside for 5 or 10 minutes every day. Maybe it's just taking a walk around your block. And it's like thinking about connections that you can make with nature. When my daughter was very little, we had a tree that she kind of like loved and always wanted to say hello and goodbye to. And so that was just kind of like an easy way to start teaching her about like nature, but also for her to see the changes and then make like a real connection to that tree. And you could do it with like anything. Like some kids are really interested in birds. You could learn about like bird watching with them. There's all different types of things, but I think really trying to figure out like how you can spend more time outdoors, which goes like it gets harder, right? As your kids get older and they're in school and there's other things happening. Now that my child's in school full time, I try to kind of like schedule time outside like throughout our week. I make it a priority just like I would anything else, like a doctor's appointment or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. Because nowadays everything like Kids are on devices a lot, and even when
Right.
they come, they have a play date with each other, and instead of
I
talking.
know. They're on their like iPads. I know. I mean, my daughter is like 6.5 and already she's asking for a phone. And I'm like, you are not getting a phone for a very long time.
What is your superpower if you had to pick one?
That is a good question. I think that my superpower is that I am a deeply caring person. So I care about, things that are happening far away from where I live. And that has made me more curious about the world. Sometimes it also makes me more anxious and more stressed out, but I think that we need as many people who care about as many things that are happening as possible.
Yeah, that's a very great trait to have. What is your greatest accomplishment to date that you're proud of?
I mean, the book that I wrote came out in February, and that was, 4+ years in the making. That's probably professionally the biggest accomplishment that I would say. Um, and that was really just something that I had thought about for years, not necessarily this topic, but thought about that I wanted to write a book for years and wasn't really sure if I could do it or how I would find that time. So I think like looking back, I'm like, oh, I did that. You know, Personally, I think in the past year, I have really felt like we have created this little engaged community for ourselves where we live, my daughter and me. And that I think has been like the greatest kind of personal accomplishment of like having a network of people in town who are like, oh, hey, I got extra flour at the store. Do you want some? Or I have extra eggs. Just kind of like that kind of neighborhood community feeling that I think we have lost in a lot of ways, especially after the COVID pandemic. To kind of see that coming back has been really heartening to me.
Wow. What have I called your single parenting journey was like? What were some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah, I mean, so I ended up writing the book or like starting the process of writing the book right when I was in the process of getting divorced. And I'm not sure that I don't think I would have written the book if I hadn't gotten divorced. I don't think I would have found that time or created that space for myself to do it. But I think like that was a big challenge because they were both kind of like happening simultaneously. And then, I mean, there are lots of like everyday logistical challenges of like who's picking my kid up from the bus if I am stuck at the office, like things like that. That's just like a lot of juggling, which again goes back to like feeling like I really have that community again because I do have people now that I can say like, hey, I'm like running late, can you go get her? But that wasn't something that like just happened. It definitely takes time to get to that point.
What helped you get through the single parenting challenges?
I mean, I think just like a very strong network of friends. I also moved back to my hometown. And so I kind of like had a little bit of a built in community. And I also like kind of knew like logistically where things were, right? Like I knew what preschool I wanted to send my kid to. I knew like the best place in town to get fish for dinner, like kind of just those things that like I think would have been different if I was living someplace where I wasn't as familiar with.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. What would your advice be to single parents who are just stepping onto the journey of single parenting?
I think it gets like easier and you definitely like find yourself. Not that it's always like easier, but I am much happier now and that took some time, but like I really like the life that I have now.
What helped you along? Did you read any books,
Did I read
or it's
any
the
books?
community that helped you get better?
No, I think it was really just like a lot of conversations with good friends over the time. And, I have like a great pair of siblings. So really being able to have them around as well.
Awesome. And your writing journey, what was, I guess, the best part of your writing?
The best part of my writing journey is always like meeting other people. They always give me more inspiration. And I think, especially from a climate perspective, more hope, right? The more I talk to other people who are kind of doing this work and seeing what they're doing, it like gives me more hope at a time when it's very hard sometimes to be hopeful about the future of the climate crisis on the planet.
Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
I think the only thing that I would say for, people who are very concerned about the climate crisis and maybe feel a little overwhelmed and don't know where to start is that like just pick one thing and do it. You're not going to do it right all the time, and that's like perfectly fine. It can be such an overwhelming topic, but I think like the little things that you do kind of give you momentum to keep going and make other changes.
Okay, okay. So what can they do? What is the smallest thing they can do?
I mean, really, I think the smallest thing is just talking about it with other parents. It can be like contacting your elected officials to make sure that like they know that you want climate action, and that's not a one-time thing. I have a little reminder on my calendar where I like email my elected officials once a month, and sometimes I'm actually just telling them something that I really liked that they did, because everybody like needs to be told that they're doing a good job at times too. But and then also I think that when I am saying something like, hey, I'm really worried about like air quality, or I would really love if we could have more outdoor classrooms and if there could be money for that, then it's something that I think allows them to listen a little bit more, because I haven't been yelling at them the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta kind of compliment them on, yeah, like you said, on doing something right. So what was one thing that they did right that you wrote about?
What is something that they did right? So, where I am in Connecticut, for a long time, if you had installed solar panels on your house and then decided for whatever reason that you needed additional ones, right? Like your lifestyle changed, you got an electric vehicle or something and needed more panels. It was actually a state law that you could not add additional panels to your house. And so that law went away about a year and a half ago. And I was like so excited because I had put solar panels on my house right when I bought it. And at that time, nobody had lived in the house for 9 months. So there wasn't a good baseline of how much energy we would be using. And so I found that I needed a lot more panels than I had initially had, and then couldn't add them. So that was something that I had contacted my elected officials about for probably like 2 years. And then when it finally did get changed, I was like so excited for something to do. Something else I noticed just the other day is here where I live, we have a pay per bag like trash collection. So all of our like trash that gets picked up has to be in a certain bag that you buy from the store. For about 10 years, it has bothered me that these plastic trash bags that we buy then come in a very thin plastic bag that's just like added waste that you can't do anything with. And so finally this week I noticed that they had finally gotten rid of that plastic bag and they just have rubber bands around them. And I was like, yes, less waste. So that is something that I just noticed that yesterday. That is something that I do have to like send an email to say thank you for making this change about. It's a good reminder.
Yeah, totally. What is your biggest grievance now? Like, what is bothering you the most?
I think for, well, I mean, right now, right, we're at like back to school time, and there's so many like back to school sales. And I guess I'm getting really annoyed by the back to school sales, because I think that we're just in this place where it's really hard as an individual to not feel like you always need more stuff, right? And that's kind of like the messaging of like, get this deal on a new backpack. And I'm like, but does my kid really need a new backpack? Like, no, she doesn't actually. The one she has is perfectly fine. So right now I found myself very annoyed at the back to school sales. And then also like here, you know, where we are, there's all like the news about different tariffs. And so I think people are feeling added pressure of like, oh, I have to buy this now because it might be a lot more expensive. And I think that's really frustrating to me as well.
And with the school supplies, it's like every year.
Yeah,
So I started before I buy anything, I go through my inventory of what I already have before I
right.
buy.
I have to do that because I feel like my child has so many clothes, and we have good friends who just like dropped off a like bag of like extra of clothes that their kids had outgrown. So I'm like, okay, now before I actually buy anything for you, we do just really need to go through and see what like still fits and like figure out what you actually need.
Yeah,
But it's hard.
yeah, totally, totally. Thank you, thank you. If people would like to connect and learn more about you, where would they go?
So my website, Bree, Shirvell, SHIRVELL.com. That's my like personal website where it has like articles I have written. It has information about the book, and it has a sign up to my newsletter. That's the best place.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Yeah. Thank you.